The United States dollar has been the world's reserve currency since 1944. That is 82 years. Long enough that most people alive today have never known a world without it. Long enough that the dollar's dominance feels like a permanent feature of the global financial landscape rather than what it actually is, a historical arrangement created at a specific moment by specific decisions that replaced a previous arrangement which also felt permanent until it did not. Before the dollar, there was the British pound. The pound sterling dominated global trade and finance for over a century, from the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s until the twin catastrophes of the First and Second World Wars drained Britain's financial reserves and transferred economic supremacy to the United States. Britain's loss of reserve currency status was painful, prolonged, and connected in ways we covered in episode 10 to the IMF bailout of 1976. But before the pound, there was something the history books rarely discuss. Before the pound sterling became the world's currency, the world ran on a different coin entirely. A Dutch coin, the guilder. And the story of how the Dutch guilder became the first true global reserve currency and how it lost that status is the most relevant financial history that almost nobody knows. Because right now, as inflation in America tops 4%, as consumer sentiment falls to the lowest level recorded since the survey began in 1952, as the Federal Reserve faces political pressure to cut rates even as prices rise, as 30-year Treasury yields hit their highest point since the day before the 2008 financial crisis, the question of whether the dollar can maintain what the guilder and the pound before it could not is no longer theoretical. It is the most important financial question in the world, and history already has an answer. Not a certain answer, not an inevitable one, but a map. And the map starts in Amsterdam. If this kind of history, the financial forces that built and broke the greatest empires, is what you want more of, subscribe now. Every week we go deeper into the stories that textbooks summarize in a paragraph but that actually decided the fate of civilizations. Hit subscribe. You will not regret it. In the 17th century, the Dutch Republic was the most extraordinary commercial civilization the world had ever seen. A small nation of fewer than 2 million people, occupying a territory that was largely below sea level and had to be physically constructed and maintained through engineering, had somehow built the dominant economic power on Earth. The Dutch East India Company, the VOC, was the first publicly traded corporation in history. It commanded more ships than many nations' navies. It controlled the spice trade from Indonesia, the textile trade from India, the tea trade from China, the silver trade from Japan. At its peak, the VOC paid its shareholders an annual dividend of 40% for 18 consecutive years. 40% every year for nearly 2 decades. Amsterdam's financial infrastructure was equally revolutionary. The Amsterdam Exchange Bank, founded in 1609, was the first modern central bank. It offered merchants across Europe a service that had never existed before: a stable, reliable, trustworthy place to deposit money and settle international transactions in a currency whose value did not fluctuate with the whims of monarchs or the debasement of royal mints. The bank maintained strict rules about the quality and weight of the coins it accepted. It built a reputation for reliability so absolute that merchants from Hamburg to Lisbon to Istanbul preferred to settle their international debts in Amsterdam guilders rather than their own national currencies. This is what made the guilder the world's first reserve currency. Not a declaration, not a treaty, not a political decision by any government, simply the accumulated trust of millions of individual merchants who had discovered that Amsterdam guilders were the most reliable unit of financial value available to them. When you needed to settle an international debt, you used guilders. When you needed to price a commodity that would be traded across multiple countries, you priced it in guilders. When you needed to borrow money for a long-distance trading voyage, you borrowed in guilders. Reserve currency status is not given. It is earned. It is earned through decades of demonstrated reliability, financial discipline, and institutional trustworthiness. And it can be lost. The Dutch learned this. Britain learned it after them. And the lesson of how they lost it is worth understanding in detail. The Dutch Republic's financial dominance began to erode in the late 17th century through a combination of factors that will be familiar to anyone who has been following this series. Military overextension was the first. The Dutch fought 3 wars against England in the second half of the 17th century, followed by a prolonged and enormously expensive conflict against Louis XIV France that consumed resources the Republic could not sustainably replace. Wars require money. Money requires borrowing. Borrowing requires servicing. The Dutch national debt expanded dramatically during these conflicts, and the Amsterdam Exchange Bank, which had built its reputation on strict financial discipline, began to bend its own rules to accommodate government financing needs. This was the critical moment. The moment when the institution whose reliability had made the guilder trustworthy began compromising that reliability to serve short-term fiscal needs. The Amsterdam Exchange Bank began making loans to the VOC and to the Dutch government that exceeded what its reserves could prudently support. The strict standards that had made the bank the most trusted financial institution in the world were quietly relaxed, not announced, not debated publicly, simply adjusted, incrementally, under the pressure of necessity. The merchants who used the bank noticed. Not immediately, institutional trust erodes slowly, the way a foundation cracks before a building falls. But over years and decades, the premium that Amsterdam guilders had commanded in international markets began to narrow. The certainty that a guilder was worth exactly what it appeared to be worth began to feel slightly less certain. Alternative financial centers, London above all, where the Bank of England had been established in 1694 and was building a reputation for the kind of reliability that Amsterdam had previously monopolized, began to attract the business that had always flowed to Amsterdam. The transition from Dutch to British financial dominance took roughly a century. It was not a crash. It was not a crisis in the conventional sense. It was a gradual shift of confidence, the slow reallocation of global trust from one financial center to another as the evidence accumulated that the newer center was more reliably maintaining the standards that the older center had begun to compromise. By the time the shift was complete, by the time London had clearly replaced Amsterdam as the center of global finance and the pound sterling had replaced the guilder as the world's preferred reserve currency, the Dutch Republic still existed. The guilder still circulated. Dutch merchants still traded. But the premium was gone. The privilege of issuing the world's reserve currency, the extraordinary benefit of being able to run deficits that other nations could not run, to borrow at rates that other nations could not achieve, to conduct international trade in your own currency without the cost and friction of conversion, had transferred to Britain. And a century after that, it transferred again. From Britain to America. At Bretton Woods in 1944, with Britain exhausted and indebted by the Second World War and America producing half the world's GDP, the transfer was formalized. The dollar became the world's reserve currency. The pound became a secondary currency. And Britain spent the next 30 years discovering what the Dutch had discovered before it, that losing reserve currency status is a long, slow, expensive process with no dramatic single moment that announces itself. Now consider the present. The dollar's reserve currency status rests on the same foundation that the guilders did: institutional trust. Trust in the Federal Reserve's independence. Trust in the stability of American financial institutions. Trust in the rule of law that protects contracts and property rights. Trust in the consistency and reliability of American economic management. Each of these foundations is under pressure in ways that have not been simultaneously true at any previous point in the post-war dollar era. The Federal Reserve faces direct political pressure from the current administration to cut interest rates even as inflation runs above 4%. This is precisely the kind of political interference in monetary policy that erodes the institutional independence that makes a reserve currency trustworthy. When merchants and governments around the world hold dollars, they are implicitly trusting that the Federal Reserve will manage the dollar's value according to sound monetary principles rather than short-term political considerations. Every public statement that suggests otherwise, every tweet, every press conference statement, every reported conversation between the White House and the Fed chips away at that trust in ways that are invisible day to day and significant across years. Consumer sentiment in the United States just fell to 44.8, the lowest reading since the University of Michigan survey began in 1952. Real wages are declining as inflation outpaces earnings growth for the first time in 3 years. The personal savings rate has fallen to 2.6%. These are not just economic statistics. They are indicators of a population under financial stress, losing confidence in the institutions and the economic management that is supposed to ensure their financial security. 30-year Treasury yields are at their highest level since the day before the 2008 financial crisis. This means the market is demanding a higher premium to lend money to the United States government for 30 years than it has required at any point in the 17 years since the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. The market is, in the language of bond yields, expressing doubt. None of this means the dollar is about to lose its reserve currency status. The dollar's position is reinforced by factors that the guilder and the pound did not possess: the sheer size and depth of American financial markets, the network effects of a global trading system built around dollar invoicing, the absence of a clear alternative that combines the necessary scale, liquidity, and institutional reliability. China's renminbi cannot replace the dollar while China maintains capital controls in a financial system whose reported numbers are not fully trusted by international investors. The euro represents a currency union without a unified fiscal authority, a structural limitation that constrains its reserve currency potential. Gold is an asset, not a currency. Bitcoin's volatility makes it unsuitable for the reserve functions that require stability above all. There is no obvious successor. That is a real advantage. But the Dutch guilder also had no obvious successor in 1670. The pound sterling was not yet what it would become. The transition took a century of incremental trust erosion before it was complete. The Dutch did not lose their reserve currency status in a day. They lost it across a century of small decisions that each seemed necessary and reasonable at the time. Bending the bank's rules to fund a war. Compromising the monetary standards that had made the guilder trustworthy. Allowing political needs to override institutional discipline. The British did the same. More dramatically, across 2 world wars, but the underlying mechanism was identical: the gap between what the institution promised and what what it delivered widened until the world found somewhere more reliable to put its trust. The dollar is not the guilder. America is not the Dutch Republic. The scale is different. The alternatives are weaker. The network effects are stronger. But the mechanism is the same. It has always been the same. Reserve currencies are not dethroned by conquest. They are dethroned by the slow accumulation of reasons to trust them slightly less. The guilder lasted 150 years as the world's reserve currency. The pound lasted 130 years. The dollar is 82 years old. History does not set a timer, but it does keep count.